I thought the Acropolis would be my favorite part of Athens. It wasn't. My favorite landmark in the city was its quieter, more lived-in cousin. The Acropolis is why you come, but Athens is where you fall in love with Greece. So, let me show you how to experience the city, little cousin included. Hi, I'm Karen. We planned this trip ourselves, and we spent 3 days exploring Athens before continuing on to the Peloponnese and Skopelos Island. We made a few mistakes, we discovered a few surprises, and figured out exactly what we'd prioritize if we did it again. After almost 18 hours of travel, I expected Athens to feel overwhelming. Instead, it felt comfortable. Honestly, after that much travel, I'm not sure if I liked anyone anymore. We checked into our hotel on a quiet cobblestone street where a neighborhood kid was kicking his soccer ball against an old stone wall. There were cafes spilling into sidewalks, tiny shops tucked between apartment buildings, and people lingering over coffee instead of rushing off somewhere. Within the hour, we stopped feeling like tourists. I had always pictured Athens as a place that you explored for its history. Instead, it felt like a city you experienced. One minute you're standing beneath 2,500-year-old ruins, and the next you're wandering into a little family bakery or discovering a quiet plaza that's not in any guidebook. That's when I realized the Acropolis isn't the whole story. Athens comes alive when you take the time to slow down and experience everything within it. If it's your first time in Athens, I think where you stay is almost as important as what you see. Plaka is the neighborhood most first-time visitors imagine when visiting Athens. It's beautiful, full of cafes and little shops, and incredibly convenient. But it's also one of the city's more popular areas, so you'll probably pay a little bit more to stay there. Monastiraki is busier and more energetic. You're right in the middle of the action with restaurants, shopping, the flea market, and access to many of Athens' historical sites. If you like having everything at your doorstep, this is a great choice. Another neighborhood is Siri, which we only wandered through in the middle of the day, but I do wish we'd had an evening there. It somehow felt hipster and old school mafia at the same time. Between the street art, the cafes, and older buildings, it had a gritty, creative energy that made me want to come back after dark. Plaka is what everyone books first. It's not what I'd book. We stayed near Syntagma Square, and if I was planning this trip again from scratch, I'd make the same choice. It felt quieter than the tourist neighborhoods, but it was still a short walk to Plaka, Monastiraki, and the Acropolis. I also liked that there were plenty of locals around. The nice thing is all 4 of those neighborhoods are close enough that you're probably going to end up exploring them anyway. So instead of trying to find the perfect hotel, I'd focus on finding one you'll enjoy exploring every time you step outside. Because in Athens, some of the best moments happen in between the landmarks. Now that you've decided where to stay, let's talk about how many days you'll need. We stayed 3 nights, which gave us 2 full days to explore Athens. It was definitely enough to fall in love with the city, but if I had to do it over again, I'd spend 1 more night. I move at a slower pace than most travelers, so that extra day wouldn't be about cramming more in. It would be about seeing the same amount of things without feeling rushed, and maybe trying to get to the Acropolis Museum, which we didn't get to this trip. Most people won't build in that extra day. It feels unproductive when you have a checklist to get through, but that's exactly the instinct worth ignoring. If you only have a day or 2, don't skip Athens. Just accept that you'll be experiencing a few things rather than everything. Athens has been here for over 3,000 years. It'll still be here the next time you visit. So whether you have 2 days or 5, here's what I'd prioritize. I'd start with a free walking tour or a Rick Steves audio tour. Ours took us past churches we never would have seen, by the changing of the guard, and several places we would have probably walked right past otherwise. And it gave us the history behind what we were seeing instead of just looking at old buildings. Most people go straight to the Acropolis and save the museum for later, if they even go at all. I think that's backwards. Before I ever set foot in the Acropolis, I would visit either the Acropolis Museum or the National Archaeological Museum. Seeing the artifacts and history first is what made the ruins click for me. And everyone seems to take the first lot they can get when they're booking online. Don't do this. Go early in the morning or later in the day when it's cooler. You'll enjoy it so much more. You can book your tickets in advance, but I like to keep my schedule a little more flexible. Everyone comes to Athens for the Acropolis, but my favorite spot was Ancient Agora. It felt more immersive, less crowded, and easier to imagine what every day looked like thousands of years ago. The only thing it doesn't have that Acropolis does is a view. I'd also make time to explore the neighborhoods of Plaka and Siri without a plan. We wandered into an artist co-op that had everything from handmade coasters to full-on sculptures. It's one of those places we never would have found if we'd been rushing from one thing to the next. If you're a runner like I am, a great morning was running through the National Garden to the Panathenaic Stadium. It was a fun way to see Athens before the heat and the crowds set in. One of the best memories we have in Athens happened because we weren't in a hurry. We met a Greek man named Yannick at our hotel who actually didn't live too far from us in the US. Over dinner, he introduced us to some amazing Greek food and gave us recommendations for the Mani Peninsula where he grew up. Those recommendations turned out to be some of the best days we had in Greece. So Yannick, if you ever happen to see this, thanks, man. You can't plan moments like that, but you can leave enough room in your itinerary for them to happen. Before we get into the food in Greece, I put together a free guide called How to Stop Ruining Your Own Vacation. It's the exact planning system we use to fit more trips in a year while avoiding burnout, overplanning, and vacation regret. If you've ever come home wishing you had slowed down, spent less, or experienced more, I think you'll find it helpful. You can grab it from the link in the description below or head on over to KarenRoams.com after you're done watching this video. Now let's get back to Athens because one of the best parts about visiting Greece was the food. Everything just tasted fresher. One thing we ordered over and over again was a Greek salad. If you're expecting lettuce, you're in for a surprise because there usually isn't any. Instead, it's tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, and olives, a big slab of fresh feta, and some incredible olive oil. On those hot summer afternoons, it was the perfect break from all the meat-heavy meals. Of course, you have to try a gyro and some souvlaki. Just know they're a little different than what we're used to in the United States. If you order a gyro sandwich, don't be surprised if it comes stuffed with French fries. And if you order a gyro platter, I hope you're hungry because the portion size is huge. And if you're like me and don't like tomato-heavy dishes, try the moussaka. It's like a creamy Greek version of lasagna, and it quickly became one of my favorites. Be prepared for either leftovers or split a meal. And one of the best pieces of advice we got was from our friend Yannick. He told us if we ordered hemista, which is the traditional stuffed peppers and tomatoes, ask the waiter if they're like his yayas. If they hesitate, maybe order something else. We followed his advice several times and it worked out pretty well for us. There were also a few cultural surprises centered around food. We were often brought a complimentary dessert after our meal, either an orange cake or a local herbal liqueur. More than once we politely declined because we were already full, and looking back, I think we may have accidentally offended some people. Another funny nuance in Greece is when it's someone's birthday, they pay for the meal. At one spot, the birthday person bought the entire restaurant a round of the liqueur. We did have one kind of disappointing meal while we were in Greece, but they can't all be perfect. Overall, we thought the food in Greece was fantastic and one of the best parts of our entire trip. And now that we've covered what to eat, let's cover a few of the mistakes we made so that hopefully your trip goes more smooth than ours did. The first mistake we made was not planning our Acropolis trip a little better. We didn't get an early start in the morning, so we ended up walking up to the Acropolis around 10. And unfortunately, the next entry time was 1 p.m. Instead of waiting in the hot sun, we decided to go wander through Siri that afternoon, and we ended up buying our tickets for the last entry at 6 p.m. It worked out in our favor. It was noticeably cooler, there was more shade, and the lighting was gorgeous. If you want to avoid both the heat and the wait, either make sure you get there before it opens at 8 a.m. or book your tickets ahead of time. And if you're traveling with kids under 18, don't forget to have them bring their passport or some form of ID. They get free admission to many of Greece's archaeological sites, but they'll need some proof of their age. Just be prepared to wait a second while they convert our month, day, year system in the US into their much more sensible day, month, year system. Our next mistake happened at Ancient Agora. They had the main entrance closed, so they had a temporary entrance. We could see people in there, but we walked around 90% of it and could not find the entrance. We finally gave up and we went to a little cafe and had a liquid attitude adjustment. And when we came back, we walked that last 10% and found the entrance. So if you can't find it, don't give up. You're probably closer than you think. Another thing you need to do in Athens is wear the right shoes. Athens is beautiful, but it's also full of marble sidewalks, cobblestone streets, and uneven stairs. I was wearing my running shoes and slipped a couple of times. I never actually went down, but if you can slip in running shoes, you need to take your time and be careful. Those polished surfaces are no joke. Also, Greece is cat culture. You'll find community cats almost everywhere you'll go, and they're generally healthy, well-fed, and quite friendly. You know they're spoiled when they turn their nose up at the bread because they're waiting for meat. As a fellow cat person, don't be surprised if these little locals steal your heart. Finally, bring a little cash. We paid by credit card almost everywhere, but at restaurants, there was never any way to leave a tip at the end. If you want to leave something for great service, having a few euros in your pocket makes it easy, and the locals really appreciate it. Speaking of cash, let's talk for a little bit about what this trip actually cost us. Compared to other European capitals, I thought Athens gave good value. We stayed in a clean, comfortable 3-star hotel just a few blocks from Syntagma Square for $175 a night, and that included breakfast every morning. Getting into the city from the airport was easy too. It was about $10 per person to ride the public train into the old town, and it was far cheaper than a taxi. Food can be as affordable or as indulgent as you want it to be. On our trip, we enjoyed everything from street food to upscale dinners with handcrafted cocktails, and we often found full liters of wine for between 5 to 8 euro. Since breakfast was included for us, I would budget maybe $50 a day per person for food. That's if you want a mix of casual dinners and maybe the occasional nicer dinner. What really stood out to me though wasn't how inexpensive Athens could be, it was how much value we got for the money we spent. Whether you're on a tight budget or treating yourself to a few memorable experiences, I think you'll get a lot for your money. And honestly, the food wasn't even my favorite part of the city. Looking back, I don't remember Athens by the monuments. I remember wandering through neighborhoods we hadn't planned on visiting, sharing long dinners, and meeting people like Yannick, whose recommendations ended up shaping some of our favorite memories in Greece. The Acropolis gave us a reason to visit, but it was the city and the Greek people that made us fall in love with the country. So yes, see the history, but don't spend your whole trip chasing it. Leave enough space in your itinerary to wander, slow down, and to connect with the people around you. Those are the moments you'll remember long after you get home. If you found this video helpful, I'd love for you to join the Romies and hit the subscribe button. Every week we're exploring new destinations, sharing practical travel tips, and proving the world is a lot more affordable and a lot less intimidating than most people think. If you're planning a trip to Greece, be sure to check out the playlist that's on your screen now. I'll walk you through everything from planning your trip to avoiding the mistakes we made along the way. And if you want even more travel tips, destination guides, and behind-the-scenes stories that don't make it into these videos, my free newsletter will be launching soon. You can sign up at KarenRomes.com and be the first to know when it goes live. Thanks for watching, Romies, and don't forget, go get lost on purpose.